Hello class. This video is going to go over some instructional verbs. Now, instructional means directions, and verbs are things that you do. So essentially they're just fancy directions, but they're used a lot on quizzes and tests, especially the big tests at the end of the year that every student has to take. So they'll use these big words to mean something simple. And if you don't know what those big words are, then you won't know what to do. And if you don't know what to do, you won't know how to answer the question correctly and get a good grade. So in this video, I'm going to go over 5 different instructional verbs that are used on tests. So you'll know what they are when you come across them. So the first word is analyze. Go ahead and kind of say that in your head. Analyze. Analyze means to break down into parts in order to discover and demonstrate a relationship between ideas. So if you were analyzing a car, you'd break it down into parts, take all the pieces out, and you'd be analyzing, oh, well, this one does this, and this piece does that. So I'm really analyzing this. And you kind of tell me what each part does. So, for example, you might get this question on a test. Analyze a job you have had. Right? This doesn't mean just tell me about it, just like it doesn't mean tell me about a car. It doesn't mean to describe the job. You wouldn't just describe the car. It would mean to really break down in pieces the job a job you've had in the past, and tell me about each piece and demonstrate how each piece works together. That's what it means to analyze. So here's how I might answer that question if it was on a quiz. So analyze a job you have had. This might be a really good answer of how to analyze a job. Let's say I was a pizza delivery person, which I was when I was in high school. So here's how I would analyze that job. It says right here. It says, being a pizza delivery person was more than just delivering pizza. I had to be prepared every day to start deliveries. This meant my car had to be in the best working condition and cleaned out so I could fit large orders of pizza in the back seat if needed. Also, I had to memorize every apartment and building number so I could find addresses fast. It takes real brain power to remember the layout of 22 different complexes. So notice in my answer here, I was actually breaking down different parts of being a pizza delivery person, right? My car had to be in top shape. Oh, my knowledge of the apartments around the area, because man, it was crazy to find an apartment really fast when I'd never been there before. Some of them didn't have maps. So that was me breaking down the different parts of that job and analyzing the different pieces. So question then. So what is a good definition for analyze? Now, moving on to word number 2 is argue. Now you may go, yeah, I know how to argue all the time. My parents argue. I argue with them. I got it. Let's go into the specific definition. It's to present ideas in a clear manner which will indicate or show your position on the issue. So when you're arguing with your parents or your siblings, you might not be doing it in a clear manner, and that's really important here. So when you're arguing a position, you're kind of telling your reader or your audience why you believe what you believe or you want what you want. So in an example question, argue for or against minimum wage. Now, minimum wage is a law in the country that says you have to be paid at least this much. I think right now it's something like $12 an hour or whatever. So any place that hires you must pay you at least $12 an hour. in order to be fair and to be obeying the law. So some people say it's a good thing, some people say it's a bad thing. What would be your position? So here's an example answer that you could give. So argue for or against minimum wage. A strong minimum wage is essential for college students to succeed. Now pause. Right off the bat, I'm telling you where I stand, on which side, for minimum wage or against minimum wage. And here, I'm saying that I'm for minimum wage. It's essential, meaning it's very important. Let's keep reading. As a pizza delivery person, many would say that I didn't need to get paid minimum wage because I received tips. However, tips are not guaranteed and are unreliable for planning and budgeting for monthly expenses. And then I would go on to argue why minimum wage should be real, why we should have minimum wage. So that's how you argue. If on a test it says, argue this position, you need to really come out in a clear manner and state why you have that opinion about whatever the issue is. So right now, what is a good definition for argue? All right, let's go on to the next word. The next word is compare. Go ahead, think compare in your head. Compare. What that means is to note similarities between two or more ideas, subjects, or issues. Now, often you've heard the word contrast and compare, right? Or sometimes teachers will say compare, and they just want you to note the similarities. What's the same between these two objects? Sometimes teachers will get lazy, and when they say compare, they want you to talk about what's the same and what's different. So always ask your teacher and go, hey, question, do you want us to talk about what's the same, or do you want us to talk about what's just different? So make sure you ask them. But to compare really means to note what's the same between two things. So in this example question, it says, compare your past job with your present one, or the one you have now. So if I was going to do that, I would compare what would be the same between those two jobs. So let's say before I was a pizza delivery person, but now I'm a cashier at Target. This would be my example question. So my last job as a pizza delivery person is similar to my present job as a cashier at Target in many ways. In both jobs, people skills was a necessity to success. While delivering pizzas, I had to be pleasant and have a warm smile at the door to ensure customer satisfaction, as well as a generous tip. As a cashier, a warm smile goes a long way to keep customers happy. So notice as I'm comparing the two jobs, I'm talking about what's the same between them. I needed to be pleasant and have a nice smile in both jobs. So that's comparing what's similar or what's the same. Let's go ahead and answer this question now. What is a good definition for compare? All right, our next word. Contrast. When it comes to contrast, this is the opposite of compare. It means to note only the differences between two or more ideas, subjects, or issues. So what's different about these two things? Just talk about the differences between these two subjects or issues. All right, so what if you were asked this question on a test? Contrast your current job with the one you hope to have in the future. All right, so talk about the differences. Here's what I would say. Let's say I currently work at Target as a cashier, but in the future, I hope to run my own landscaping company. All right, I can go on with this good example answer. I currently work as a cashier at Target. In the future, I hope to run my own landscaping company. There will be many differences between the two jobs. There will be, for example, as a landscaper, I won't have to interact with so many customers every day. As long as I do a great job beautifying their yards, they will be satisfied with my work. Also, I'll be able to wear comfortable clothes instead of a uniform. So boom, I'm talking about the differences between working at Target and between doing landscaping. I don't got to talk to so many people. Like at Target, I got to talk to people every day. But this one, I got to talk to them once, and I take care of their yard, and I probably want to talk to them again until the end of the month when I get my money. All right? Same with uniform. At Target, I got to wear my uniform, but if I'm working in their yard, I can wear whatever I want to wear. All right? So that's what contrasting is, talking about the differences. So what is a good definition for contrast? All right, going on. The word is convince. You're going to see this word a lot, the word convince. Think about that word, convince. Convince. Also, another word that is used would be persuade when you're writing a persuasive essay. So they mean the same thing, convince or persuade. That means to explain your position on an issue with enough detail to sway the reader into your way of thinking. Now, you might be going, wait a minute, Mr. Mascio, how is this different from argue? All right, I'll go into it. They're very similar, but there are some little differences. All right, so let's look at this example. Convince your reader that working while attending college is beneficial or a good thing. All right, so now I have to convince somebody of something. So rather than arguing, talking about me and I think, and this is what I think, and this is what I think should happen, when I convince, I'm going to do it more for everybody, not really talking about myself so much or in the first person, but I'm going to talk about just why it's good in general. So in this one, it says, convince your reader that working while attending college is beneficial. So I say many people don't get jobs while going to school because they feel it will take time away from their studies. However, studies show that students who work while attending college are more focused, disciplined, and more successful in school. Having a job makes you sacrifice other activities like parties or social events, which will help you be more focused on school matters. So I'm talking about it. It's good for everyone, not just for me. It's not just what I believe, but I'm convincing you this is what everybody believes. All right, so that's what it really means to convince, is to persuade someone this is what you should believe and this is what everybody should believe. Not just because I believe it, because it's really the best thing. So what is a good definition for convince? So before we end this video, go ahead and answer these few questions here to really show that you understand those 5 words that we went over today.